The last two episodes of Once Upon a Time have been so good, and that's because they're actually moving the overarching plot of the entire season forward. Now, we all know that with network television, that there can be mini arcs within, the season, and they essentially will be in, 1 to 5 episodes, give or take, and then they're done. And then there's, the breadcrumbs of the overarching season mystery, etc. But season 7, it's been really hard to piece together. And we know that we have a couple bad guys. We have Gothel, Facility. We had Nick, who was, killed last episode. But a lot of us, because we know this show is ending, want to know what the hell the writers have in store for season 7. And finally, the introduction of the Guardian paid off. The introduction of Facilier really paid off. I really love Daniel Francis. I think he's fantastic. Also, he worked with Robert Carlyle so well. Like, I don't know why they didn't cast Facilier earlier in the show. Like, I would have had him in season 2. Like, he's so good. So the reason why I really love this episode so much is because what, they promised, minus Gothel, but we'll talk about Gothel in the trailer review, has finally come out. And the only thing about this episode I did not like was the fact that Facilier says that Rumpelstiltskin is the reason why Regina and Facilier's relationship is always, ruined. And I'm like, I've never seen this relationship, so I can't support it. It's, the main rule of television is show, don't tell. And they've just been telling us that Regina and Facilier are in love. But I haven't seen the backstory. I don't get it. Like, I don't see it. I mean, I can kind of feel the chemistry between Lana Parrilla and Daniel Francis. I think Daniel Francis is fantastic. But I can't support the couple or have any attachment to it because I haven't seen it. And I really can't even form a conclusion about it. Like, for example, Henry and Jacinda. I don't buy it at all. I mean, it's told, this, they showed it. I think it sucks. But, they at least attempted to show it, and then we have the right to either ship it or not. But, Facilier and Regina, they just tell. And I guess, obviously, you still have the right to ship them if you wish, but there's no conclusive proof besides the fact that they told us they were in a relationship. And because the show only has a few episodes left, will we ever get to see that relationship played out? So this episode really reminded me of Criminal Minds, in all honesty, because it really felt like a murder mystery. Because, Rumpelstiltskin is going after the dagger. He's trying to find it. He thinks Sandy stole it. And then you have the Beast storyline with Tira Scovey and Rose Reynolds. And, you essentially see them falling in love, which is cute. And then you also have the past storyline where you have Rumpel and Alice's relationship get fleshed out, and you find out about the Guardian. And I just really loved everything I saw. Now, I've had issues with Rose Reynolds throughout the run of season 7. At first, I thought she was really good, and then I couldn't figure out what she was doing. I kind of felt that she jumped the shark. But in this episode, I'm like, all right, Rose is really good. Like, I really like her as Alice and Tilly. In episode 14, I believe that was the Girl in the Tower episode where Rose Reynolds, was front and center with Tira Scovey, and it was showing the love between Robin and Alice. I couldn't figure out how she was trying to portray Alice. I couldn't really grasp it because sometimes I feel Alice, is fine. And then there's other times where she seems really crazy. And I'm thinking it's because the writers are trying to show us all the time she's been in the tower, it's affected her mentally. But, they never really showed, again, they haven't showed it. It's just kind of been, you haven't even really been told it. It's very odd. It's really based on Rose Reynolds' portrayal of Alice. So, I just can't ever, see the conclusive path with it. But I really love the way Alice was portrayed and the way Tilly was portrayed here by Rose Reynolds. So I support Rose Reynolds as Alice. I think she's relatively well cast. I just sometimes don't understand her methods of acting. Now, in the past, let's talk about the past for a few minutes. We have, Hook is watching over Robin and Alice, and Rumpel wants to test Alice because he thinks she's the new Guardian. And actually, we're going to jump back just a little bit more. In the beginning of the episode, there is a beautiful setup that looks like Coco. And I'm like, I love when Once Upon a Time can reference other Disney properties without actually having to bring the properties into the show. I think it's really, really creative. And Rumpel's at an altar, and he, meets Facilier for the first time, which also doesn't make sense because I thought Facilier was from the Enchanted Forest version 1. So, not 100% sure how the Dark One could always interfere with Regina and Rumpel's, with Regina's and Facilier's relationship if they only met for the first time in Enchanted Forest version 2 after Belle already died. plot lines all over the place. But point being is the setup of Belle's altar for with the Coco themes were beautiful. So, Rumpel really wants to get rid of the darkness, and he essentially, gets to meet Alice after, figures out that Hook, he knows that Hook's watching Alice and Robin. Hook says, don't come near them, and then he waits for Hook to not be watching them, and then he, talks to Alice. Alice is like, oh, Rumpel, you're my friend, but my dad told me not to talk to you. And he's like, oh, but let's go on a mission anyway. They go to meet Facilier. Alice pulls out his heart. I love when Rose Reynolds screams "shut up" when Facilier was trying to convince her that Rumpel was lying to her. I thought that was really, really well done with acting. The acting for Seven, Danya Ramirez, I think, is a little difficult to like. Emma Booth, she has really good moments, but then I think sometimes they just have the worst takes for Emma Booth, because I think she plays Gothel well, but I just don't think sometimes she has the best moments. It's a weird thing. I just don't think we've seen all the takes. Like when she screamed "kill her" in Sisterhood, I was like, oh my god, there must be another take. But that's irrelevant. So, Facilier, is his heart's in Alice's hand, and Alice decides not to crush it. She puts it back in his body, and Rumpel and Alice leave. So Rumpel figured out that Alice is the guardian because Alice couldn't hurt Facilier, which I thought was really well done. They were trying. Rumpel was tricking, quote unquote, Alice to kill Facilier because Facilier could cure Hook, which obviously didn't happen. But I just love all the interactions in the hut between Alice, Rumpel, and Facilier. I love how Robert Carlyle got to get back into Rumpel mode and be all like ooh and whatnot. I thought that was really, really fun. He's turning back to the Dark One because I guess they're saying that there's a little bit of darkness in him and it's essentially spreading. And, Alice is the only way for him to get rid of that. And so after he realizes that that Alice is the guardian, Rumpel and Alice go to Belle's altar. And then, Alice is going to take the darkness away from him. And I guess the way the guardian works is the darkness will be turned to light, from the way I'm observing the episode, is the magic will be turned to light, but the immortality will stick. And he won't let Alice be immortal because he doesn't want her to be in the tower again. I thought it was beautiful that he decided to keep his dark magic to let Alice live, but not really give into it. So I thought, oh, Robert Carlyle, so beautiful. Rumpel, actually liking him. I mean, I've had issues with Rumpelstiltskin since season 3. I think I know I've been reviewing the show since season 4, and I've had issues with Rumpel since the end of season 3. So, sometimes his character arcs bug me. Sometimes I love them. I loved it. I loved his character in this episode so much. And then at the end of the episode, the end of the flashback, he's all green and he shakes Captain Hook's hand and it's like, ooh, again. And I'm like, oh, I feel so bad for you. I actually feel bad for Rumpelstiltskin. Like, he wants to be free. He wants to be dead. And he, kept his immortality so Alice and Robin could have love. And I'm like, oh, so beautiful. So the flashback, A plus storyline. Then in the present day, poor Lana Parrilla really didn't get to do much in this episode. And honestly, the same really applied to Andrew J. West. And I'm okay with them slightly taking a backseat, but, Lana Parrilla is, a regular, an OG. Andrew J. West is playing Henry, who's an OG, but the actor is not. And I'm like, wait, no, I want to see more of Lana. I want to see more of her doing stuff. But I guess she got to direct last week, so, whatever. So Rumpel, as I said earlier, is going after his dagger. He can't find it, and it's because, Sambi's after it. And Alice, because she's the guardian, is guarding the dagger, and then at the end of the episode, Alice gives the dagger back to Rumpelstiltskin. That was really it. It was just Rumpel trying to find it. Then, like I said, there was the Alice and, or the Tilly and Margot love story going on. So both storylines in Hyperion Heights were relatively simple to follow because it had a very conclusive ending. And Regina is pissed at Rumpelstiltskin at the end of the episode, or Ronnie is mad at Weaver because he used magic that Celia gave to her, and he stole it to find his dagger, but he didn't even need to do it. And then, Hook and Henry are, looking at Nick's apartment. They talk to Drew. Drew's, horrified of Sandy and is looking for something on Sandy so that way Sandy can't blackmail him anymore. And following that, the episode essentially ends with Jacinda and Henry finding out that Henry's her father, Lucy's dad. Allison Fernandez and Makia Cox are both not in this episode. Obviously, Emma Booth was in this episode. She's in the trailer for next week, which we can talk about. So I thought the episode with the present storyline was relatively simple, but it was beautiful. I really loved all the acting. I thought Dylan Francis was fantastic. I thought Lana Parrilla in her role was, small, but it was good. I love the emotions that she can emote. And overall, I thought Rose Reynolds did a really fantastic job in this episode as well. I thought she did much better here than she did in The Girl in the Tower. So I was a fan of this episode. I thought it was really well constructed. I love the fact that it moved the plot forward. And I'm looking forward to next week's episode quite a bit. So anyway, share your thoughts about this episode in the comments below. I thought The Guardian was honestly an A+ episode. I'm looking forward to discussing it with you further, and we'll talk real soon. All right, guys. Bye.